Welcome to the 2015 Bike and Pedestrian Count, brought to you by the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission in partnership with the City of Charlottesville, Albemarle County, the University of Virginia, and local bike and pedestrian advocates. These are the count instructions for the intersection of Ridge McIntyre and West Main Street. Shown on the map is location 7. It's a very important location. It really is a gateway to the downtown mall area. The city has been studying this corridor of West Main Street, and there are certain recommendations for improving this intersection. We really do need a lot of bike and pedestrian information on this area, so this is one of the top or highest priority locations in this effort. Out of the 10 count locations, this is the most complicated intersection and the most difficult for volunteers. Rather than the typical 4 legs or streets that go into the intersection, we have 5 here. You can see Ridge Street to the south, which turns into McIntyre Road. On the west, we have West Main Street, which heads down to the University of Virginia. To the east, we have Water Street, which provides access or connects with the area defined as the downtown pedestrian mall. And to the south, we have, or the southeast, we have South Street. What's going on in this intersection, not only the structure of the intersection, but also what's occurring. We have a hotel construction on the northwest corner. And again, we have the downtown mall. This is a very important location for the city. As it is, there are plans to expand the downtown mall, the character of the mall, west into this intersection and along West Main Street. Here are a few features just to get you familiar with the site. As you can see here, this is a view of the Sacagawea Lewis and Clark statue on the western part of the intersection. This is actually one of the reasons why this intersection is very difficult, is you have this channelized turn lane, which is difficult to view. We also have, you'll notice on South Street that there is a bike lane. This is a contraflow lane, which is a one-way street with two-way cycling traffic. You'll also notice there are crosswalks at each one of the legs of this intersection. Here's a view of the statue. This is looking west. You can see, quite a bit of pedestrian traffic due to a sidewalk closure on the north side of this street. There's also a crosswalk going across West Main Street, going across McIntyre, as well as Water Street to the east, and South Street as well. While you're conducting these counts, it's very difficult to capture all the counts over towards the statue. But make sure that when you're out here counting that you're in a position where you can view this area and count any pedestrians or cyclists moving through this channelized turn going south onto Ridge Street. Here's a tricky part of the intersection that you'll run into while you're conducting these counts. There's construction being done on the northwest corner of this intersection. It's a new hotel. And as part of that, the sidewalk along West Main Street has been closed. So this will definitely change the pattern of pedestrian traffic, but we don't think it will change the volume of pedestrians moving through this intersection. And that is what we're recording, just the number of pedestrians, not how they're moving, but how many are moving through the intersection. When conducting these counts, we recommend that volunteers stand on the eastern part of this intersection. This would provide a clear view of all areas of the intersection, allowing them to see the traffic turning right or towards the south on Ridge Street. It would also provide shade during certain times of the day. In the count, volunteers will record the number of pedestrians that pass through this intersection. With a bike count, they will count the number of people on bicycles as well as the movement of those cycles through the intersection. What you may notice when you're out here collecting this information, some cyclists or pedestrians may decide to kind of cut across the front of the federal building or through the apartment building here on the east side of the intersection. While this is not within the intersection, it's very important that you keep an eye on these areas shown with the green arrows. We want to make sure that we record those bike and pedestrian trips as well, and just include those movements and include that traffic in your count form. This is the bike count form for this intersection. It is the most complicated of all of the 10 locations for the bike and pedestrian count due to the 5 legs or streets that lead to this area. The concept is to record a bike trip into one of the 19 boxes shown here, showing the direction from which the cyclist entered the intersection and which direction the cyclist turned through this intersection. For example, if a cyclist were traveling eastbound on West Main Street and turned onto Ridge Street, a mark would go into box D4, indicating that the cyclist turned right or south onto Ridge Street. Conversely, if a cyclist were traveling westbound from Water Street to West Main Street, that tick mark would go into box B2. Since there are 5 legs to this intersection, we have shallow turns and we have sharp turns indicated on this form. So if a cyclist were traveling south and then turned onto Water Street from McIntyre Street, that would go into box A4. And if a cyclist traveled and turned onto South Street from the north, that would go into box A3. And we are requesting that volunteers record this data in 15-minute increments to give us more detailed breakdowns of these counts. So make sure to renew this form every 15 minutes, use a new form, and include the time on that sheet so that we know when those counts were collected. This effort records the number of people on bikes rather than the number of bicycles. For example, in the picture on the left, there are 2 individuals on a bicycle. Consequently, the volunteer would include 2 marks on the form. The picture to the right shows 5 people, which includes an infant. This would count as 5 on the form. Also, we ask that volunteers count all cyclists, even those riding on the sidewalk. Collecting counts on pedestrians is more basic. Volunteers will not record turning movements, but the total number of pedestrians. These marks will go into a box on the form apart from the intersection diagram. No matter the turning movement in the intersection, each pedestrian will count as 1 in the sidebar. Also, remember to break these out into the 15-minute increments, using a new sheet every 15 minutes, and marking the time on each one of those forms. When recording pedestrian counts, make sure to include people in wheelchairs and children in strollers. For people on skateboards or rollerblades, mark those individuals as other on the form. When volunteers arrive at the site, they should bring a copy of the count instructions, the location map, and most importantly, the count form with the intersection diagram. If you would like to borrow a clipboard, please visit the TJPDC offices to check one out. Also, make sure to bring extra pens or pencils along with the contact information of the project lead, Will Cockrell, in case someone on the site inquires about the counts and would like to learn more. Bring sunscreen, snacks, and water, particularly if you are counting for more than an hour. Finally, make sure to bring a watch or cell phone to keep track of those 15-minute time intervals. Once you've reached the site, become familiar with your surroundings. If you ever feel unsafe, stop counting and leave the location. Your safety is our priority. Also, it's best to arrive 15 minutes before the time slot, allowing yourself time to assess the intersection and to review the count forms. This might also allow you an opportunity to talk with a volunteer from the previous time slot and to ask about any difficulties he or she experienced while conducting these counts. For more information, visit the project website. You can find detailed count instructions and forms along with frequently asked questions and other important information. If you would like to sign out a clipboard or pick up copies of the form, please visit the TJPDC offices at 401 East Water Street. The project lead is Will Cockrell. You can contact him for additional assistance or questions about the counts. We would like to thank all the volunteers for their efforts. This information will be critical for identifying and prioritizing bike and pedestrian projects in our area. We greatly appreciate your time and look forward to seeing your counts. Thank you.